Hi gang, Gina Phillips here. We're going to deep waters in these next couple of videos, so I hope that you can track with me. This is going to be one of two, possibly three videos that I'm going to entitle Mind Control Programming, UFOs, and AI Interface of the Beast System. So I'm going to attempt to explain how victims of mind control who are programmed interface with AI, and that it's used for them to cross the veil between the earth realm and the spirit realm, and used for them to operate and even create UFO craft and ships. So yes, at least one form of UFO is composed of human soul fragments, primarily the will, AI interface, and an entanglement with a fallen entity. So I can't speak for all UFOs and craft that we see in space, but I know that at least one of them is tied to mind control programming. And these craft are used for weapons, all types of witchcraft. You'll see these large craft of varying sizes, but some can be huge, sizes of football fields and bigger. And these crafts may hover over a city or an area, collecting energy and life essence of other programmed individuals, shoot off and go to another place, another portal, where they charge up the kings of the earth. The videos that you'll hear me doing most of the time talk about an exchange of energy, about Satan hacking the system that God created, planet Earth. He put a limited, very specific amount of energy into his creation of Earth, and everything's supposed to go from God, through God, and back to God, but Satan hacked that feedback loop. So if you've not seen my video that's out called How to Create a Pocket Realm, you may want to take a look at that before you watch this video. It's only about 20 minutes long. You can find it at my website, but it lays a foundation for what we're going to talk about in this particular video. I want to do a little disclaimer here before we get into the video. I'm having trouble with people that may not know me and follow me very well, popping in and watching a video, and they mistakenly believe that because I'm teaching on a topic of witchcraft or New Age or how people do this alchemy, these crazy things, that I somehow approve of it. And that just couldn't be further from the truth. My heart is to teach the church, the body of Christ, just how entangled individuals are with darkness, and to help the body of Christ to understand the deep levels of witchcraft that come against us, and to better understand the beast system. Because in my opinion, looking at the communications, it's appearing to me that they're rolling out the beast system. In my next video, part 2 of this, I'm going to teach from scriptures Revelation 13 and Revelation 17 that speak about the red seven-headed beast. I believe this beast to be tied to an entity, but I also believe that it's an AI technology that will work with the second beast, who I believe is the Antichrist, and that they will work together to do great miracles, signs, and wonders using technology and witchcraft. So I'm going to talk more about that in the second video. Just stay tuned and watch for me to put that one out. I think it's really important and very timely. So let's get started. I've discussed in previous videos how severe trauma is used to fragment and shatter the human mind into hundreds of alter personalities that have amnesic barriers between them, and how those fragmented alter personalities are then entangled with fallen entities and then programming scripts of how to behave or different jobs to do are used to create real-life Manchurian candidates, real-life Jason Bournes, real-life Hitler, Ubermensch, the Superman. But there's a whole nother side to programming, and it's for the purpose of hacking energy. We're created in the image of God. We're full of light. He's light. And because God is a creator God and we're created in His image, we too have the ability to create. And Satan cannot do that. He lost his light when he fell. And so he wants to use and does use through programming, through mind control programming and other means, he uses us to harvest our energy, our life essence, our light. And he uses us deceptively to create things in the second heaven, in his realm, for his dark purposes. So I've explained, well, let me put it this way. So Satan uses TV programs, movies, music, video games. He uses the scripts and the lyrics within those media to cause the masses to focus their thoughts and their emotions in a certain way. And then he harvests it. So when somebody has post-traumatic stress disorder, and everybody who's a mind control survivor has that, you have these feedback loops of trauma in your mind, right? So the fragmented parts of the mind, the hundreds of them, have the different programming tortures and traumas that the person's been through in a feedback loop. Because it's behind a dissociative wall, the trauma never gets resolved, and so huge amounts of emotion are built up as the memories in the subconscious mind replay again and again those horrible traumas. And so Satan harvests that energy. He likes those feedback loops set up that way. But Satan is not only able to use people who were formerly programmed in daycares and schools. He can use people like us too through movies and media. When millions of people are watching the same movies and listening to the same songs, he's able to make us focus our thoughts and our emotions. That's how we create. You may have heard me teach before about how when my thoughts and my emotions come together and are focused very strongly, I have the ability to create. So he's doing that and creating the emotions he wants of violence or trauma or lust or whatever it is through using the media. Using computers, TVs, phones, video games, all types of technology. He also uses us as research subjects. We know in social media platforms and you know what type of shows we watch on Netflix, all types of scientific data is recorded about us and algorithms are created. How do we solve problems? How do we solve conflicts? What happens when a person sees these type of events? And just huge amounts of algorithms are created that will and are being used to create an AI system of the beast in Revelation that we Christians will not take the mark for. These algorithms have been used and will be used to be able to read our minds, thoughts, predict our actions. And I'm not going to get into it in this video, but I have worked with clients who are chipped and have claimed, and I believe them, and there's a lot of evidence to show that now with a lot of the AI interface stuff coming out, that the technology has the ability to predict your human behavior and has the ability for us to download our consciousness into a machine. I'll present to you that the idea that this technology is not new. They're just rolling it out, but has been used for a long time on survivors. So as I've said, Satan controls all mainstream entertainment for these two purposes. One is it serves as the playbooks and the scripts for directing and ordering and communicating with the mind control army. And it's used to create very specific emotions and thoughts and energies at varying wavelengths and harvested for him to use, barter, sell, create. I have up here this picture of Disney's Aladdin storyline. It's a legend out of Arabia. I'll talk a little bit about flying carpets and their history in the next slide, and propose to you that this very well may not be mystery, but a real phenomenon that goes back to antiquity and is tied to witchcraft. And so I'm going to propose to you that the flying carpet is the same phenomenon as the Hindus' Vimana, the UFOs out of the Vedas, the Hindu Vedas that go back 6,000 years, and that they are the same phenomenon as the UFOs that we see today. That it's a translocation means using witchcraft, human thoughts, and will to go between realms. Aladdin's magic carpet is a symbolism used in programming. When a teenager who's been programmed through the years, when they get to a programmed child, gets to the age of a teenager, they do something, a type of programming called pathworking that we'll discuss a little bit more in a bit. And it's like taking their human will and emotions and weaving it into a ship, into a flying carpet. But it's really, they visualize it as like weaving their will, but weaving threads in a carpet, but it really is about them intertangling their will with different entities, interfacing with technologies, and creating a ship. But they use the Disney symbolism of a tapestry and the magic carpet. Remember, the whole mind control language is a language of symbolism. And so I just popped up here this picture of Aladdin and a song from the movie called A Whole New World, letting you know that the whole new world that they're really discussing is leaving the realm of the earth and going into the spirit realm, where they can do whatever their heart desires and there's no rules or limits. So I did a little research on the history of the magic carpet. I cited my source up here at the top. The article is History of Magic Carpet, and it's from a website called Ancient Origins, Myths, and Legends. I don't know the validity of the guy who wrote this article. It's quite convincing. He seems to have his ducks in a row with a lot of quotes and cites, and I want to read you guys some information from this. Whether it's folklore or this is real, it's not going to change the fact that I'm convinced and know that how the UFO stuff operates with mind control survivors. But what I'm wanting to do is to show you guys that it's nothing new, that in the writings of antiquity, people are using, all the way back to, 6,000-7,000 years ago, they're discussing using human thoughts and emotions and the human will coming together with magic and entities to transcend different realms. Okay, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and read you some of this this man's research. I have a quote up here from the book 1001 Nights. It says, "Whoever sits on this carpet and wills in thought to be taken up and set down upon another site, will in the twinkling of an eye be transported there, be that place near or distant, many a day's journey and difficult to reach. And so you got a man sitting on a flying carpet going above the earth with this little lantern. That's much like the symbolism in the green lanterns and the lantern core, your energy source, but I'm not going to get into that here. Let's talk about this man's article, History of the Magic Carpet. So he states that this French explorer named Henri Bach discovered manuscripts in Iran in this underground cellar of an old assassin castle near the Caspian Sea, and that the manuscripts that were found were written in the 13th century by a Jewish scholar named Isaac ben Sharira. And that the manuscripts that this man Ben Sharira wrote, they shed new light on the real story behind flying carpets of the Arabian Nights. Now, these manuscripts that this man writes about claims that they were real, that it wasn't just folklore, and that the Muslims believed that flying carpets were of the devil and wicked magic, and over time the science was suppressed, that anybody who was creating and making these magic carpets were beheaded, carpets were burned because of some of the wicked stuff that happened with them, and that's how it disappeared. Or actually it probably didn't disappear, but they say that in the article, disappeared. It really went underground if you're in the occult. But that's what was in some of these manuscripts. So according to this Jewish scholar named Isaac ben Sharira, he said that the earliest mentions in history and in manuscripts of flying carpets occurred in this book of Proverbs that was collected by a minister to the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar. And then the other book that writes about flying carpets in antiquity was Josephus. And anybody who studied the Bible knows about Josephus. He was a 1st century Roman Jewish historian. He wrote a lot about Jewish history. So he's considered a reputable source. So this man, Ben Sharira, compiled out of those two manuscript sources stories about the Queen of Sheba, and King Solomon. And so I'm going to read about that story to you real quick. You see the picture down at the bottom right, that's Queen Sheba and King Solomon. It's a picture somebody did. So the manuscripts, according to this guy, Ben Sharira, at the inauguration of Queen Sheba in 977 BC, her royal alchemist, so he's going to be like the magician occult dude, he demonstrated there that these brown rugs, he could make them hover a few feet off the ground. But years later, he perfected his skill when he discovered that there's a trick that lay in the dyeing of the carpet. And I'm not going to get into the whole science of it, but you can refer to that article and check out more stuff. It's kind of interesting. So after he perfected it, Sheba decided to send a flying carpet to King Solomon as a token of her love. And so he made this massive flying carpet for her. It was some crazy measurements of miles long. It was green, it was square, it was like something like 6 miles long or some crazy thing. I can't remember the amount, but it was massive. They said that it was big enough for his entire host or army to stand on. And the story goes that when King Solomon received the gift from the Queen of Sheba, that he was busy rebuilding the temple or building the temple in Jerusalem, and he couldn't receive the gift. And when news of him not taking the gift came, she was hurt. And it's not the story of this that's so significant. I'm trying to show the point that in these manuscripts, people were discussing flying carpets and even biblical characters, like the King Solomon being given the gift. Another account that this Ben Sharira guy who translated the manuscripts chronicled was the library in Alexandria that was founded by Ptolemy the First. The manuscript says that a large stock of flying carpets were kept in this library in Alexandria for readers, and that the readers borrowed the carpets in exchange for their slippers, and they would glide around the library reading the scrolls. I want you to take note that this library with the flying carpets was destroyed by fire, because you're going to find that in programming and flying carpet, almost every story with it is tied by fire, because it has to do in alchemy, the fire of making sacrifices to the elemental being of fire. So, you know, you have that account given of flying carpets in the Library of Alexandria. You have accounts of Aladdin, like I shared that with you. The story appears to be a real story based on the antiquity, and he finds that same storyline in his scripts, his manuscripts. There's accounts of flying carpets being used as weapons in Ben Sharira's accounts, where armies would stand on the carpet and shoot arrows and fly. There's even an account of them finding within the stores in the stockade of Genghis Khan that flying carpets were found there. So check it out. That's a neat kind of resource, history of the magic carpet, and the various manuscripts in history that discuss them. And again, I told you that he gives great detail of the people the names and the lineages of the people who were known for making these carpets. And I think the lineage is important, just like bloodliners in the occult. So magic, they like to have the iniquity forged, makes better magicians down the bloodline. So it's interesting that the people who were the artisans of these flying carpets had long lineages. So again, whether true or not, I just wanted to make the point and show you that there is legend or true history about flying carpets that go back to antiquity. So moving to the UFOs in the Hindu Vedas, I believe that the flying carpets are very similar when you look at the descriptions of what they do and how they're tied to magic and the human will and thoughts and entities crossing over to other realms, that the flying carpet is very similar to what the Hindus called Vimana. And so my source is cited up here. It's the UFOs in the Hindu Veda. I have different quotes and extracts from a book called Contacts with the Gods from Space by Dr. George King. You may want to check that out. And so I got a little picture here of somebody representing you know, Indians and the Hindu UFOs. If you look at old, what do you call them, hieroglyphics and stuff, you can find them all over. This is like well documented. The UFOs that go back like over 6,000 years, written in the Hindu holy books, the Vedas, and the accounts of these flying UFOs, and they call them Vimanas. And here's a couple of quotes of people in the Holy Scriptures talking about their sightings of a Vimana. The first quote says, That aerial and excellent Vimana, going everywhere where it will, is ready for thee. That Vimana, resembling a bright cloud in the sky, is in the city of Lanka. Another quote out of the Hindu Vedas, it says, as soon as the symptoms of his liberation were manifest, he saw a very beautiful Vimana coming down from the sky, as if the brilliant full moon were coming down, illuminating all the 10 directions. The symptoms of his liberation, it's like in this scripture here, it's talking about his freedom when he was enlightened and liberated and freed from this human body and from the earth plane. The symptoms that he witnessed as soon as that happened is he saw the UFO coming down from the sky. In a later video, it's important that it says it was illuminating in 10 directions, because those 10 directions are tied to 10 colors that are tied to 10 emotions of programming. So it's interesting. So you have the account here of this man getting liberated and freed from his body, going to the other realm. He sees a spaceship in the sky and 10 colors of light illuminating in 10 different directions. That's so what happens to the programmed people when they are leaving their body as well. The green quote here is another quote from the Vedas. It says, this guy Dhruva was a king. So while the king was passing through space, so he's flying in his ship, he gradually saw all the planets of the solar system, and on the path he saw all the demigods in their Vimanas, their UFOs, were showering flowers upon him like rain. Beyond that region, he achieved the transcendental situation of permanent life in the planet where Lord Vishnu lives. So, oh my gosh, this, like when I read it, it sounds so much like what children and survivors tell me. When you are split, when your mind is split, they will literally have 10 parts go to the different planets and moon, where they cause parts, the fragmented parts of your mind to astral project, and they'll tie them to each of the planets, each of the 9 planets, and then one ties back to a Hindu entity called Pavarti. And then there's something called flower programming, which I'm not going to get into here, but it sounds so much like these experiences when I read them of what the programmed people are going through. Not to mention that the very first 3 entities that programming children are tied to are Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. And it's talking about this here. That's actually the Mickey Mouse ears. They use the symbol of the Mickey Mouse ears, which is like 3 circles, the circle of his head, and then the 2 black circles. The Mickey Mouse programming is the tying of the child to those 3 entities. And then I won't get into much more, but what they're doing is using the ancient Hindu religions and the Vedas in early programming to shatter and spread parts of the human soul to different parts of the cosmos. Let's read the blue quote from the Vedas. The Vimana, or UFO, had all necessary equipment. It could not be conquered by the gods or demons, and it radiated light and reverberated with a deep rumbling sound. Its beauty captivated the minds of all who beheld it. Vishvarkama, the lord of its design and construction, had created it by the power of his austerities, and its outline was like that of the sun, and it could not be easily delineated. I'm going to show you guys some pictures in a minute of modern day pictures of what I believe to be real craft tied to this, and it says the same thing, that the outline was like the sun and it could not be easily delineated, the outline of it. Again, my whole purpose of showing you guys this is to let you know this is not a new phenomenon. I have a couple of pictures here of what I believe to be pictures of the craft that are used like in mind control. If you notice, well, they're real pictures, they're untouched pictures. I got them from Mr. MBB333's website. I watch him, I like him. He's one of several people that I follow for cosmic weather, things like the Schumann resonance and earthquake data. But he has a lot of pictures people send him from all over the world of unusual sky phenomenon. And so these are a couple of pictures from his site. I think, what does it say? One is from South Carolina, the one on the left over the ocean, and the one on the right is one's from Miami. Two different pictures, both have that same triangular phenomenon. Check out his site. He's got all kinds of really neat photographs, and he doesn't alter them or change them. Videos. In the Hindu Vedas, it says there are 3 types of Vimanas, 3 types of these UFOs. One of them is powered by knowledge of the mantras. That's like knowing how to do it through your chanting of the mantras, the different prayers. And then the second type is used by tantric ritual knowledge. Tantric can be like a very violent sexual type of ritual. And then the other third way that they're operated and created is through artificial and mechanical means, which I think is a big part of what we're dealing with today. So again, just showing you some pictures of some strange phenomenon that and there's different types of craft. These are just triangular. If you go to Mr. MBB333, he'll show you all the different kinds of lights and orbs and cigar shapes and stuff, but I just wanted to show you this one, this shape of the triangle ones. And this is just a picture of what appears to be a portal that I also got from Mr. MBB333's website. It's a untouched picture. Somebody just took the picture as it is, and if you look, people that I work with report portals that look just like this. So I wanted to show that to you. Again, portals can be opened up with thoughts and strong emotions focused in a very specific way towards the veil to go through. And so this is a neat picture, I think, of a portal. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of how programmers get a child to transcend and create their own craft, I just want to point out just how commonplace the practice is of astral projecting and exploring and moving around in the spirit realm is. Like our children, our teens in this generation are creating light bodies, which comes from their own soul, using their thoughts and their imagination and their will to separate fragments of their own soul and create light bodies and to fly around and explore the astral realm. It's in all the music videos, the movies. Our teenagers know what it is. It's common practice. And there's something called lucid dreaming. And what lucid dreaming is a person going into the astral realm and exploring. They may lie down and be very awake and conscious, but it's that their soul perceiving what the broken off part of themselves is doing in the other realm, and they'll say that it's very real, it's very colorful, it's really happening, Gina, is what they'll say. It's real, it's very, very real. It's not the normal type of dream. They call it a lucid dream. In the other realm, it's often very colorful, neon colors. That's why I have it portrayed up there with the child, a lucid dream. They report things like you see up here that are in the other realm. The laws that apply to Earth don't apply there. You know, you can fly, you can leap. There are things out of place in time. but it's very tangible and real. Note that I just pulled up this book called The 10 Light Bodies of Consciousness. That number 10 is very important in programming because you have 10 light bodies tied to 10 different emotions, and each tied and harvested in a different type of lantern or lamp to power up your ship. And so I'll propose also that at least some of the alien abductions, the ship comes for you. It is you and your entity driving that ship, a programmed individual, at least in some cases, that comes to get you. And so you just see the coming to get you, the front presenter parts, nose, and they're sucked up into the ship. There's amnesia and unawareness that the back parts of you are running and controlling that ship. I'm not going to say that I know this is the case in all abductions, but I'll say that this is common of the way it's experienced in programmed individuals. So again, I just wanted to show you that even if somebody's not formally a bloodline person in the occult who's been programmed, or a kid that was picked in preschool and public school that's programmed, that people are forming light bodies and transversing the other realm. We need to talk about steampunk before we get into the actual programming. Steampunk is, most of you guys probably already know what it is, but some of the older folks may not. It's a genre of science fiction type art, movies, art, that incorporates retro futuristic technology. So there's technology that's futuristic, but it uses retro and past steam type technology. The designs are inspired from like 19th century steam powered machinery. The storylines in steampunk movies are depicted either in the art, also in the Victorian era or the American Wild West. And the storylines give an alternative history. It's not based on our real history here. For their timelines. So you may like see a scenario where it's playing out a history of Abraham Lincoln, but it'll be a fake history in a science fiction film that's got these technologies that are futuristic but steam powered old stuff coming together. So you have a picture down here of people wearing steampunk fashion, and I'm going to share later how steampunk technology, steampunk genre of art and technology in movies is used as a cover and a symbolism for the programmed person to interface with a machine, AI technology. So here are some pictures of steampunk vehicles. I just wanted to show you they're these futuristic but also retro from the past looking pieces of art. You've got teapots, which would come from the programming of Alice in Wonderland and the Mad Hatter. Vehicles up here. You have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This is a ride at Disney World. The Nautilus up at the top middle. You got like a snail. The mechanical rhinoceros would be from James and the Giant Peach for programming. You have this submarine that looks kind of like a fish. We're going to talk about use this actually as our example for programming a child called the Skyfish. Saucers, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, that flying vehicle. Here's an interesting steampunk modern day airplane, but it's got this, it's fueled by steam power from the industrial age. So these mechanical objects are going to be used as a visual for the child to imagine interfacing, connecting, and tying to a mechanical object, which is really an AI interface. People who are into this steampunk, there's whole movies. I'm going to show you a few in the next slide. There are parades that parade all these types of vehicles. I've told you in past decodes that vehicles represent, in programming, a symbol for crossing realms. Cars are used. But the steampunk vehicles, they can be anything. They can be gloves. They can be a Victorian house like you see in the movie Up. They can be trains. But what they represent is the vehicle. It's a visual retrieval cue for the child to focus their thoughts and their will and their energies to use to cross over the veil. But again, I just wanted to show you what some of these vehicles look like. They can be a phoenix. Different people, they have parades. There's something called the Mad Hatter Parade in various cities. Vieja, California, I guess. Viejo, California. They have a big parade with this. And of course, you know, with all the millions of programmed individuals, they sit and think that they're just having fun, but in the subconscious mind, everybody is putting on display and seeing their craft. All of these things in the media, movies, and events, keeping programming alive in the subconscious mind. And here I just have a brief list of steampunk movies. These would be movies in the groupings that are helping children and adults keep their AI interface with their ship programming alive. The steampunk genre, remember, it takes place in the setting of the Victorian era or the Wild Wild West, and you're going to have the industrial age steam type technologies that are both futuristic but run by steam and mechanical. So you've got like Lemony Snicket's Unfortunate Events, Mad Max. You guys heard me use that in the decode of the Super Bowl. Hugo, the movie 9 is another huge. If you've not seen that movie, watch it. It sits and shows you the original 9 splits of the mind. It tells you in that movie where we're headed with the nuke and the cosmic total destruction of the earth, which would be the same Mad Max scenario that makes us have to go back to like an industrial steampunk type of civilization. And it talks about integrating with the AI of the machine. That's what all of these movies are about. Willy Wonka, The Labyrinth, James and the Giant Peach, Alice in Wonderland, all Mirror Mask, all the vampire type movies and stuff, Box Trolls. There's many more movies. I just wanted to show you that this genre. Mary Poppins, notice the bubbles there with the children. This is a more modern day version, but you have the bubbles in Mary Poppins. She's another steampunk genre movie back in the Victorian age, and there are the children encapsulated in their bubbles, the beginning makings of their ship. So how do we create AI interface with a child? Not surprising, it's going to be trauma bonding again. Creating and breaking of that trauma bond creates huge amount of emotional energy. The programmer in advance will decide which type of steampunk object that they want to symbolize and represent the child's ship or their mechanical object that will interface with AI technology. In our example, I'm going to use a fish. It's a very common one to create something called a skyfish, but again, it could be the 3-story Victorian mansion. It could be the train-looking entity like we saw in Mad Max. We also saw that same train in the Super Bowl. That would be the vehicle between realms, and you saw the people go to the top in the Super Bowl. depicting that they were in the heavenly realm or on the floor of the Super Bowl, the field, being in the earth realm. It could be a phoenix, it could be teacups, but the programmer in advance is going to decide what symbol will be the object that the child pours their emotions and their life essence into, and I'll tell you how that progresses. So we're going to use the example of an airfish. We're going to use the example of a fish that will then turn into an airfish. So in reality, the mechanical steampunk object is going to represent the dead friend of the programmed child. So the programmed child is going to be traumatized to another child. We're going to use in this example a little boy and a little girl. And we're going to call the little girl Susie. And she's going to be trauma bonded to a little boy. We're going to call him Chris. So the two of them would have been through a lot of like shaming and other kids making fun of them, trauma, you know, all kinds of ways. And so it forces this bond. They allow this little girl to bond with Chris, so they comfort each other. They've gone through a whole lot together, and they've been permitted by the handlers to comfort one another during these traumatic events. And so I have pictures of a little boy and girl. They will have been able to play together. When somebody is scared and hurt or tortured with other programs, they get to love and comfort one another. Trauma bonds are very, very strong. This child and these children have been through hell. And so God created us to have strong bonds and attachment to others. And so when a child's been through horrific trauma, the bond's even more important to help that child keep their sanity. So once Susie and Chris have made this very, very strong bond, Chris is going to be sacrificed. He's going to be killed in some fashion. And Susie, the little girl, is going to witness the event. So you have this child, Susie, who's on the brink of psychosis. She's in shock. She's lost her most important attachment figure while she's at school or preschool. And they have to bond. She has to keep this bond. She's willing to do anything to keep that bond. That little boy represents her comfort, her safe place to go, that everything's okay in the world, her hope. And so Susie's led to believe that she can put the life essence of her friend Chris into this steampunk object. It's not starting out mechanical, but it'll be an object like a glove or a train or a car. We're going to use the example of a fish in this scenario. So the little girl, remember, she's not even thinking clearly. She's right on the brink of psychosis, teetering back and forth, and she's led by the programmer to say, let's get a fish. We're going to use this example of a fish. And we can put Chris, we can put his spirit, we can put his soul, his life essence into that fish, and you'll be able to keep him forever. And so that's all Susie cares about, is keeping her beloved friend. So in this case, Susie's given a real fish, and she's instructed to put the life essence of Chris into this fish. And a child needs a real physical, this world representation to focus all of her emotion and her thoughts. So she's given a real fish. It's not just like somebody who's practicing, you know, with the yogis in Hinduism. The child needs something concrete to look at. So Susie's made to believe, where am I reading here? The child needs the physical representation of the fish to help her use her faith and her imagination, but this is really a mental and a magical task that's taking place. Susie's made to believe that only she knows that she's hiding Christopher in the fish. She's made to think that it's a secret, that if she hides Christopher in the fish, nobody can hurt him, and she can protect him, and she can keep him forever because she needs his love and his comfort. So once Susie is made to believe that she's put Chris into this fish, that she's put his life essence, his soul, into that fish, she's led by her programmers to cover the fish in metal. We want to cover that fish in metal. It'll protect him. And meanwhile, while the child, again, remember, she's teetering on the board of psychosis. She's just witnessed the murder of her best buddy, her best friend. She hears things like, you know, the programmers make it so the fish is talking like Christopher, talking like he's in there, you know, help me, keep me safe, those kinds of things. And so there just happens to be metal there that the child can cover the fish in metal. And so she begins to cover Christopher in the fish in metal because it's hard and it'll protect him. And this metal is going to really serve as a visual for the child that's going to represent the mechanical interface with AI. The child's only going to know it as metal that's hiding her beloved Chris. Again, I said there'll be voices of Chris coming from the fish to cause Susie to believe that he's embodied in the fish. And then the child is led to bury the fish in the dirt. She's got to really hide this fish. She can't let anybody know that she's maintained his soul and kept it for herself for comfort. So she's desperately working hard to hide Chris. She's made to hear things like his heartbeat in the fish, all sorts of stuff to validate this programming event. Now, what this fish really represents is the child's ability to keep her sanity, right? If she can't keep her bonded friend, she's going to tip over into psychosis and shatter. So as long as in her thinking, in her mind, she can keep Chris alive, she can keep from going crazy. So the programmer returns after the child has buried the fish and begins to be suspicious and act like she knows something's going on, that the child is hiding something. The handler may say something like, I smell something, is that fish? And then the programmers make it so that the child begins to hear the voice of her friend Chris saying things like, let me out, I can't breathe in here, I'm gonna die, let me out. So there's the fear of her, there is the fear of Christopher being found and she would lose him again. And then there's the fear again, the child is going to kill him by him not being able to breathe. So she's led to believe that if she'll break open the fish and send Chris to the sky, then he can live and he can breathe. So Susie, imagine she's put everything into that fish because she believes it's Chris, her love, her hope, everything that's good, compassion. And so she breaks open that fish and she's led by script to believe, look, Chris is not in there. He's gone to the sky. And so these very, very powerful emotions that have built up into the child, much like in my video, creation of pocket realms, when a child or a human being is sacrificed, she's led this child to focus all of her emotions to the sky, to release Christopher in the sky. And that's such a powerful event. It pierces the veil again and makes one of these herniations in the veil between the earth and the spirit realm. And it pops off like a bubble. And this will eventually become the beginnings of what will be a spacecraft. So go to my video again about teaching about how to create pocket realms if you don't understand this principle. So this first picture is meant to symbolize, I can't find a perfect picture, but of like the child with her handler helping the child to visualize Chris in the fish in the sky. She's really had an interface with an AI machine. The fish wouldn't look like this. It would be the mechanical looking fish in the sky. But the child is really attaching and interfacing with AI machinery, coordinating with that, a principality, and then her attachment figure begins to be this fish. This programming is built upon, like here's a picture of a girl in a ship with sky fish swimming around up there. So it begins to be a vehicle. Remember how we saw the steampunk picture of the fish-looking vehicle that flies around in the sky? Over time, with more programming, this vehicle begins to develop and to morph, because all programming is not just a one-time thing. It's layered upon and upon every year, every certain season at a different time. So, what did I want to say? So, it becomes a pocket realm. In time, the skyfish, which is like the bubble, the herniation of the veil, it's going to end up becoming a spacecraft, a UFO, a Vimana. It holds the life essence of that child. But I can't get into that just yet. Let's talk about faith. I want to talk about our ability to create and the use of our thoughts and our emotions. So let's talk about our ability to create. God is a creator God, and we're made in His image, and therefore we've been given the ability to create as well. We are creating things in the spirit realm all of the time, but because our eyes can't see it, most of us reject that and are ignorant about it. But we have the ability to create by manipulating subatomic particles. Let's read the scriptures. Hebrews 11, 1 through 3 and 5, it says that now faith is the substance of things hoped for. It's the evidence of things not seen. So it's a substance. It's something that's tangible. It's something that you can touch. And that substance is evidence of things that we can't see here in the earth realm, but it begins with faith. It begins in faith. In the spirit realm, a substance is created, and that evidence is there. It'll eventually manifest in this realm. It talks about how the things which were seen are not made of things that are visible. Things here on earth are made up of things that we can't see with our eyes. They're made up of atoms. And even smaller than that, they're made of subatomic particles. So the things here are made up of things that are not seen. Let's look at faith. Faith is a substance. If you look up that word in the Greek, substance, it's the word hypostasis. Hypostasis. And what that word means, it's the nature of any person or thing. So I want you to think about that little child who's traumatized, who takes their thoughts and he takes their emotions and their faith and focuses it and pushes it through the veil toward the spirit realm. That faith is the substance of something that child's hoping for. And according to this word here in Greek, it's the nature of any person or thing. That child's putting their very life essence into that. That word substance says that it's foundational. It's a substructure, faith is. It's a building block. It's a building block in the spirit realm which has actual existence. So we have the ability to create by manipulating subatomic particles, not only in the other realm, in the spirit realm, but in this realm. I used these a video clip at one of the conferences I was just out in. It's about a scientist, a Japanese scientist. I can't remember his name, but he did all of these experiments with water. And he showed how you could take dirty water from a river, put them in varying containers, and he would have people focus their thoughts on very specific containers of water. Like one water, they may focus mean, ugly thoughts at the water. And lots of people would do it over time. And then he maybe have another container where people are thinking happy, good thoughts. But they would all be given what thoughts they were to focus on it. And when he would take those water droplets and freeze them, all of the ugly thoughts had really misshapen, ugly structures of the water droplets, and you would see very beautiful, delicate, and intricate shapes of water that were frozen with the good and the happy thoughts. And you know, there were all sorts of experiments with that. They did it with just labeling the water, putting a label on it that was like good or bad. Like, you know, it might say something like Hitler, or it might say something like love and compassion. All of those things consistently, and other people have reproduced these experiments, would change the actual atomic structure of the water. So check that out on YouTube if you want to look up. It's a really good video. Look it up. Really illustrates how we have the ability with our thoughts to manipulate subatomic particles, much more even in the other realm, the spirit realm. I'm probably going to lose some of you guys at this point, but just know I'm doing my best to take something that's very complex and try to explain it. But I want to discuss what it may look like, what the experience may be like for an adult programmed individual who's actually engaging and operating their craft. It's disguised to them, much like when I've taught in other videos that there's amnesia between fragmented parts of the mind who may present and, you know, do sex trafficking. This also is disguised to the individual who's programmed. They don't know that they're flying their craft. Hopefully I'll be able to articulate this in a way that you guys can understand. It's tied to the lucid dreaming. I touched on that a few slides back. A lot of survivors, when you spend time with them, they sleep a lot. They do a lot of lucid dreaming. It's not the normal dreaming. What they're actually doing is being still, maybe sleeping or getting in a trance-like state, and focusing on what fragmented parts of their soul are doing in another realm. And they liken it to a lucid dream. So I'm going to use some comms, some communications that were given by Elon Musk and Amanda, I'm sorry, I forget her real name, Amanda something, that were given for interface with AI to be done with survivors. And I'm going to share a real lucid dream and what that experience is like for the individual. So Elon Musk sent out this comm, and it was a picture of the blue Twitter bird being let out of the gilded cage. There's always what looks like an innocent communication on social platforms, but I'm telling you, it always has a double meaning. That's what I'm known for. Here's a picture of this young woman. Forgive me that I forgot her last name, Amanda something. She was at the Biden inauguration. Every color she wore, symbolic. She wore this gilded birdcage ring that you saw on the Oprah show. You saw it in all these articles. And the reason why all of this goes out is because they want people to see who are programmed so that they know they're being coded. So I just want you guys to know that seeing birds in the gilded cage is a calm. If you see a red or a blue bird, that's going to go to people who are programmed that are primarily gammas. They're your thinkers. If you see black and white bird comms in the gilded cage, those are typically your betas and your sex slaves, and they're activating a code that's going to lead the programmed individual to their AI interface ship. So let's say you see one of these birds in a dream. So perhaps the black one. Okay. Let me see. I'm gonna share a dream. I'm gonna share a dream about the black bird. Let's go to the next slide. So let's just throw out a dream. So your programmed individual lays down, she feels sleepy, she begins to experience a lucid dream. So she's having a picnic, she's in a public place, there's lots of people around, there's more to the dream, but I'm going to focus on just the bird. She finds in this dream that she has a black bird, and she realizes, I've got to do something with this black bird. What do I do with it? So she takes the black bird and she puts it under glass, and the black bird turns into a white bird. What she's actually doing is remembering specific programming scripts that when she's in this lucid dreaming, the other realm, she sees and receives the calm, because she's seen it in the tweets about the birds in the cage. When she gets a black bird, she puts it into a glass case, and it'll turn to a white bird. And then all of a sudden she notices that everybody in the picnic in her lucid dream begins looking up to the sky. So she starts looking up to the sky, and what she sees is, this is the best portrayal I could get, is a circus. And in the circus, in the dream, they're all mechanical robot people doing like trapeze artists and things in the sky. This is her interface with the machine, right? She doesn't know it. But every time one of these steps, when she has to see the birds and the switching the birds and the picnic storyline, all that is just used to begin to put steps between her and this interface, her, the frontline personality, so she doesn't know what she's doing. As you get older, they hide it from you. So these storylines are just a way the programmers use to distance her from what's really happening. But in the dream, as she begins to look up and she begins to see the mechanical circus in the sky, everybody's looking at it and watching. She has this cable car that comes and picks her up from the picnic and begins to lift her up into the sky where this trapeze, this circus thing is going on, right? It's beginning to make her get closer to this AI interface. And she starts to see black goo coming down, and it begins to cover her. She starts to get covered in the black goo. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then she doesn't remember anymore. And what's happened is she's crossed over. She's having the lucid dream. She's going through her programming script. And once the black goo comes, black goo is like an interface between the machine, the AI, and the other realm, and then she's gone and she doesn't have a memory anymore. Now, we'll be able to work on those memories at some time, but because she can't remember, it lets me know she's not ready to see what's happening over there. But this would be a common type dream. May not be the exact picnic and scenario, but it's going to be something like this. You're going to have a red bird or a blue bird if you're a gamma or a theta. and you're going to have a black bird or a white bird, and they shift and they change. And all of a sudden you're looking skyward to the heavens, mechanical interface, black goo, crossover. So let's talk a little bit about black goo. We talked about how that by faith is the substance of things hoped for. It's a real, tangible thing that can be touched. It's got substance, but you can't touch it in this realm. Like, I can have emotions and thoughts. I can have the thoughts of murder and the feelings of murder, but I can't pick them up in this realm, in the earth realm, because it doesn't have substance. But in the spirit realm, you can. In the spirit realm, it is a substance. It is an underpinning. It is real and tangible. And so the black goo, I am told, is a way that permits you to pick up the substance of your faith. I'm sitting here reading some notes. So it gives the program, the black goo gives the programmed person the space to grab something like murder. You know, the Bible talks about how the blood of of Abel cries out. You leave imprints and substance of a person when you astral project into another realm. Those things can be picked up, and the black goo is what makes that possible. And along with the entity that the person has merged with, that substance that the human created by their focused thoughts and emotions is gold to the devil, because he can't create like we can. And Satan highly prizes that substance that we've created over in that other realm with our thoughts and our emotions. Let's see. So once the person in the lucid dream engages and encounters the black goo, that black goo is like this sentient stuff. You may have heard me talk in other videos about the children's account where they said that they were injected with the black goo and the curse came. But this black goo is like, it's alive. It's sentient. That's the best way people can describe it to me. It has intelligence. It's not that it can talk or anything, but they describe it as being a sentient thing. And it's the interface between AI. It allows you to be able, and the entity that you're merged with, to pick up the substance of faith and things you've created on the other side. And you see black goo in everything. It's in music videos. It saturates movies. Here's a picture of the Fantastic Beast is the name of the movie, and in a train station. And, you know, I've not watched any of these movies. I just find it on the internet. But you see a train station being flooded with the black goo. You have the picture of Greta Thunberg on this magazine cover with black goo coming down her head. You see pictures of, like in Pirates of the Caribbean, with black goo coming out of the mouths of the pirate. Here's a scene of this same black goo in Spider-Man. Here's in a kids video called Howl's Moving Castle. You have these black gooey henchmen. They're sentient. It's the black goo. They're like little henchman people, and they try to capture these characters called Hal and Sophie. Over here is Scarlett Johansson and her character in the movie Lucy. You see her turning into a cosmic entity that's made of black goo, and it's significant that it's in a starfish. So I just wanted to let you guys know what black goo is. But that's what it may appear like to the adult. Remember, can you see? I hope I've been able to illustrate how the programmer removes through storylines and symbols. It removes the programmed person far from what they're really doing, so it's hidden from them and they can't really figure out what's happening. They think they're just having a lucid dream. So let's step off the idea of programmed individuals at this point, and I want us to look at the scripture of birthing in the spirit. So this holds true for us who are not even programmed. This principle of being able to birth things in the spirit. If you're an intercessor, I've been an intercessor for 30 years. People talk about praying and birthing in the spirit, travailing. It usually involves praying in tongues and a lot of emotion involved in praying. Because remember, Satan's a copycat. This can happen on, it's a neutral principle. You can do it in good and for God in His way or Satan's way. But let's look at James. So in this scripture it says, every person is tempted when he's drawn away, enticed, and based by his own evil desire. Okay, a desire is a thought and a strong emotion come together. So then the evil desire, when it's conceived, gives birth to sin. And sin, when it's fully matured, brings forth death. So we have a scripture here that's talking about bringing together strong emotions and strong thoughts. In this context, evil thoughts and evil desires. And so when those evil desires and thoughts are conceived, that word is silambano in the Greek. It means to seize, to take hold of somebody, arrest and capture them, and to become pregnant. And so once that evil desire has conceived and we've become pregnant with it, it gives birth to sin. That word gives birth means what it says. It's to produce or have a baby. It means to bring forth the plant from the seed. So I have this evil desire and this thought, and it's strong enough, I become pregnant. And then I birth a seed of sin. And sin, when it's fully matured, brings forth death. That word bring forth means to generate or breed, to bring into being. So I bring into being death. So I can birth death or life, and it's happening in the spirit realm. I'm going to show you another couple of scriptures. I think it's 3 of them on the next slide about death. And I'm going to propose to you that these death veils come from us on the earth, conceiving, giving birth, and bringing forth death because of our evil desires. So in Isaiah 25, the Lord's talking about at the time of the end, where on Mount Zion, He's going to once and for all destroy the covering that's cast over all peoples. A covering that He's talking about is a veil of death that's woven like a tapestry and spread over all the nations. Notice that it's over all. So this scripture's letting us know that there's a veil of death that's woven and spread over every nation of the earth, and that it covers all of the people. These are some of the things we're battling today as believers. And in this prophetic word in Isaiah, at some point God's going to swallow up death, abolish it for all time, and the Lord's going to wipe away our tears, and we're going to be free from that veil. In Ezekiel 13, it talks about God will tear the deceptive veils that snare His people. And then in Psalm, it talks about nets and cords spread over the people that sets a trap for us. So I just propose to you that this is tied to that scripture in James about our thoughts and our desires coming together to conceive, to give birth and produce a seed that brings forth death in the spirit realm. And then we end up with this veil of death surrounding the earth. So our thoughts and strong emotions have the power to open doorways and portals into the spirit realm. And that's why Satan targets our imagination through the media and music and video games. It's also why God told us that we needed to take every thought captive. because we don't realize what we're doing. And so we're in a time frame where God is causing us to really pull out of the world system, to begin to take responsibility for our whole being, body, soul, and spirit. And we're going to have to take back control of our minds, our thoughts, our hearts, because out of the heart flows all the issues of life. I want to teach more about path working. I want to talk more details about the building of the tapestry, the building of the ship that happens in the teenage years, but this video has gotten way too long, so I'm going to have to end it and stop here. But I'll see you in the next video. You guys take care. God bless.